In today's video, I'm going to teach you about leopard gecko supplementation. So your leopard gecko, like most reptiles, need twice as much calcium as phosphorus in the blood. A big part of our leopard gecko's diet is insects. Now the problem with insects is they don't have bones to store calcium in them. They have an exoskeleton, and that exoskeleton just so happens to be really high in phosphorus. So when we feed that insect to our leopard gecko, we make sure that we put calcium powder on that insect so that your leopard gecko is getting twice as much calcium as the phosphorus in that insect in the leopard gecko's diet. Another question that you might ask is, well, who's putting calcium powder on their bugs in the wild? In the wild, insects are eating many plants, and these plants can be 20, 30 times as much calcium as phosphorus in their plant matter. So when the insect eats that, and then the leopard gecko eats the insect, it's getting a lot of calcium because that plant matter and all that calcium is in that insect's stomach. But under captivity and in our pet homes, it's much easier to put some calcium powder on the bug to give to the leopard gecko. So it can be made really simple to understand. Every time that you feed a bug to your leopard gecko, just put some calcium powder on it. You can put some calcium powder in a cup, place some insects in the cup and swirl it and shake it around, and then make sure that bug is really well covered in that calcium powder, and then you can feed it off to your leopard gecko. So in a leopard gecko's body, they eat calcium and it goes into their stomach, and then vitamin D allows your leopard gecko to absorb the calcium from the stomach. So vitamin D and calcium are intertwined. If there isn't enough vitamin D in a leopard gecko's diet and in its bloodstream, your leopard gecko is going to leave a lot of calcium in its diet unused, and it's just going to be pooped straight out. Luckily, leopard geckos can get vitamin D to help with that in two ways. Either from UVB lamps above them, so they can make vitamin D in their skin, or they eat it in the same way they eat the calcium powder. I like to call this automatic and then manual mode. If you have a UVB light above your leopard gecko, you don't then need to supplement vitamin D because it's going to make its own. The leopard gecko is going to make as much vitamin D as it's ever going to need because it can use that UVB. If you don't give them UVB, you have to put it in their diet so that it goes into their mouth orally. Of course, UVB has many other health benefits, so I always recommend giving your leopard gecko UVB. So if you have UVB on your leopard gecko, all you need to do is put calcium powder on the bugs that you feed to your leopard gecko every time. But if you don't have UVB, you need to use a calcium that says with D3. And then once a week, use a multivitamin powder on one feeding of that week. And that comes through and shapes up all the underlying things that might be missing and bolsters up and supplements our leopard gecko. And it really is that simple. Either calcium without D3 or with D3 on every single bug that you feed to your leopard gecko. And then once a week, put a multivitamin powder shaking on some bugs and feed them to your leopard gecko. A really good thing about leopard geckos is they're really good at self-supplementation. So you can give them a little bowl of calcium in their enclosure for them to go and take and eat as much as they need. What I would recommend with this bowl is to make sure it's just pure CA, just calcium without D3. That means they're never going to overdose on it. So now you understand that leopard geckos need D3 to use the calcium that's in their stomach, even if they're eating loads of calcium. You understand that there's two ways of supplementing based on whether you have a UVB light or you don't have a UVB light. And you know that once a week you need to use a multivitamin powder. Everything you need can be linked in the Amazon storefront down below, and I'll see you in the next video.